Hello viewers, I am going to talk about a very famous poem, Love by George Herbert. George Herbert was a great metaphysical poet. He wrote many religious poems. He was a public orator, poet, a member of British Parliament, and above all a priest. He devoted his life to the writing of devotional poems, religious poems. This great poet, George Herbert, was born in 1593 and he died in 1633. George Herbert was a very good student. He was a Welsh poet, orator, priest, he had good education. George Herbert attended Cambridge University, London, England. He became a public orator. He served in the British Parliament too. He devoted himself to the Church of England. His last years of his life, in the last years of his life, he served as rector in the little parish of the St. Andrew Church in Lower Bemerton, Salisbury. George Herbert wrote many poems. His most important poems are The Temple, The Country Parson, and Jocal Prudentum. They are the important collections of poems of George Herbert. All these poems in these anthologies or in these books of poems are devotional religious poems. After talking about the poet George Herbert, let me talk about the present poem, Love by George Herbert. This poem is a very short poem. Love Third is part of a sequence of 3 poems. They meditate on the nature of love. Love 1 and Love 2 deal with earthly love and how it tends to attract more attention than holy love. Love 1 looks into the relationship between mortal and immortal love, and Love 2 explains the connection between divine love and human lust. Love 3, which is the present poem, discusses sacred love by personifying love in a dialogue between a worshipper and God. Here, God is seen as an inviting lover that explains the worthiness that explains the worthiness of love. The poem has 3 stanzas having 6 lines arranged in longer and shorter lines. Now, let me talk about the present poem stanza wise. Love bade me welcome, yet my soul drew back, guilty of dust and sin. But quick-eyed love, observing me, grew slack from my first entrance in. Drew nearer to me sweetly, questioning if I lacked anything. In the opening stanza or first stanza of the poem, the poet deals with love of human being with God. In the poem, God is talking to a man. The speaker talks to God. Love bade me welcome. Love is personified as God. Love comes for God. God, who is love here, welcomes the speaker, welcomes the poet. However, his soul drew back because he felt that he has committed guilt, sin. So he felt guilty of dust and sin. But God, who has quick-eyed, observed the speaker and said, and he came nearer to the speaker. He drew nearer to me, sweetly questioning if I lacked anything. And love asked the speaker if he lacked anything. Why is he so hesitant? Why does he hesitate to come to God? God is ready to greet him, to welcome him. Thus, the first stanza describes how the lyrical voice is called by love. The lyrical voice describes how he or she is welcomed by love. Love bade me welcome. Love is being personified as it can speak and interact with the lyrical voice in a human way and works at the same time as a metaphor of God. Nevertheless, the lyrical voice feels guilty and wants to refuse love's invitation. Yet my soul drew back, guilty of dust and sin. Love observes the lyrical voice's guilt and draws near him or her, but quickened-eyed observing me grew slack from my first entrance in, drew nearer to me. Instead of blaming or criticizing or abusing the lyrical voice, love asked him or her whether she needs something, sweetly questioning if I lacked anything. The lyrical voice has a guilt and nervous tone as she feels ashamed of her own sins. The action narrated throughout the poem seems to have already taken place due to the tense of the verbs. However, the narration is powerful and vivid as the poem is structured in a dialogue form, which is furthered in the following 2 stanzas. Now let me explain the second stanza. A guest I answered, worthy to be here. Love said, thou shalt be he. I, the unkind, ungrateful. Oh, my dear, I cannot look on thee. Love took my hand and a smiling did reply, who made the eyes but I? The second stanza presents a debate. The lyrical voice tells love that she lacks the worthiness to be in front of him. A guest I answered, worthy to be here. Love replies that she should be there. Love said, you shall be he. The lyrical voice will insist on her ungratefulness and her unworthiness. I, the unkind, ungrateful. Oh my dear, I cannot look on thee. Love will resume, or love will reassure the lyrical voice and tell him or her once again that she is worthy of his presence. Love took my hand and smiling did reply, who made the eyes but I. In this stanza, the conversation between the lyrical voice and love is more dramatic, as the debate on whether the lyrical voice is worthy of love's presence. The tone shifts. It is more mild and gentle, as the lyrical voice accepts love's words. God in the form of love is presented as a forgiving, as a kind, compassionate, as he tells the lyrical voice, who made the eyes but I. The dialogue form of the stanza and of the entire poem has a regular pace constructed in this question and answer form. This interaction between the lyrical voice and love, God, has a ceremonial feel that is brought down to earth by the lexical simplicity in the words used. The concluding stanza, the third stanza of the poem. Truth, Lord, but I have marred them. Let my shame go where it did deserve, and know you know, says love, who bore the blame, my dear. Then I will serve. You must sit down, says love, and taste my meat. And I did sit and eat. The third stanza presents the last part and the end of the dialogue between love and the lyrical voice. The lyrical voice feels ashamed because she has marred her eyes. Truth, Lord, but I have marred them. Let my shame go where it doth deserve. Once again, the lyrical voice feels guilty, sinful, and not worthy of love's presence and words. Love will insist that he bore the blame. There is alliteration in the phrase, bore the blame. The lyrical voice emphasizes his duty to love and God and says that she will serve. Finally, love says that the lyrical voice must taste his meat, and his lyrical voice finishes the stanza by saying that she did, so I did sit and eat. Notice how the tone changes, and in these last lines, the lyrical voice overcomes her feelings of guilt and sin and her nerves, and accepts the gentle words of love in love third. This holy love, the love of God, compensates to human weaknesses. On the whole, this is a very religious poem. The poet deals with the relationship between humankind and God through this poem. This poem has 3 stanzas. Each stanza contains 6 lines. They are longer and shorter lines. It has a rhyme scheme of A, B, C, C. There is a quatrain in the beginning followed by a couplet at the end. To conclude, this is one of the best poems of George Herbert. Thanks for watching.